I'm Tom, and last night we saw another, in my opinion, not so great boxing card. It's a real shame because this weekend really felt like in my opinion, there was actually too many big fights in one kind of span of time. That's a really good problem to have, right? But when you had last weekend the Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight on pay-per-view, then this weekend you had the Ryan Garcia fight on Friday night on pay-per-view, and then last night you had the Canelo Álvarez fight on pay-per-view. Tonight you've got the Inoue fight on. It's too many pay-per-views in one night. You're looking at £100 for 2 weekends of boxing. It's a really good problem to have. It is. But that's why streaming exists as much as it does, because the prices are too high. And if you bought the pay-per-view for the Ryan Garcia fight, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because that wasn't good enough. Not for pay-per-view. I know the names are there, but that was not good enough for pay-per-view boxing. I don't want to see Ryan Garcia pay-per-view again. Next. That's the top and bottom of it. Last night, Canelo Álvarez just not having the ferocity to, I just didn't see enough to want to pay to watch that. Now, I know Canelo Álvarez is a pay-per-view star, and of course, Canelo Álvarez versus Crawford will be pay-per-view. Obviously, I'm not saying it shouldn't be. But what I'm saying is I didn't see enough for me to go, yeah, that's worth the £22 that the Zone are charging on pay-per-view. And I definitely didn't see enough on the Friday night to go, that is worth the £22 of pay-per-view. And it's a real shame because it's a really good problem to have. And I'm sitting here saying that actually there's too many good fights in the short amount of time. I'm not saying any of those fights, in hindsight, it's all going to be in hindsight saying the Canelo Álvarez fight, if you bought that, wasn't really worth the money. And the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney card certainly wasn't worth the money. I can say that in hindsight. Beforehand, nobody is trying to tell you that's not pay-per-view worthy. All these fights are pay-per-view worthy, and hopefully Inoue rescues the weekend, and I think he will. But if you're paying £100 for this weekend of boxing and this is what you're getting, it's a real shame. It's a real shame. And I think we saw another example of that last night. There wasn't really much going on. The Richard Riakporhe fight, he won. I thought he would. Fair play to him. Badu Jack causing an upset in what wasn't a really exciting fight, but he got the, he wasn't. I said the upset. He kept his belt, but he wasn't the favourite to win that fight, and he did. And who does he fight next? I don't know, because he's got a belt. Ramirez, Opataya, eat him for breakfast. Eat him for breakfast. Do you know what I mean? That wasn't amazing. And then the main event, Canelo Álvarez, it's really difficult. Canelo Álvarez won that fight, right? I had him winning. I'm not saying he didn't win, but it's really strange. I'll start with the main event. I want to go on to the Bugholy fight after. It's really strange that when I finished that fight, I sort of thought to myself, if Canelo boxed how Scull fought and Scull fought how Canelo fought, Canelo would have been given the nod anyway. And this then breaks down to one, corruption, if you like, in terms of Canelo was going to win that fight no matter what happened. Because even if the exact same fight happened, you just switch Canelo and Scull around, Canelo still gets given the nod. And it's because it's Canelo. When people look at it and go, Scull's running away, they'll look at it and go, Canelo's boxing a masterclass. And I'm somebody that really likes aggressive fighting. I'm not saying Canelo shouldn't have won the fight. Canelo should have won the fight. I like aggressive boxing. Last weekend, that Conor Benn Eubank fight was amazing. And that's one of those ones where, I don't really think there should be a loser kind of thing. Obviously, there should be, but you get what I'm trying to say. I like aggressive boxers. I like the forward front foot pressure. That for me is good. Pressure fighting. Like Usyk, he's a pressure fighter, but he still doesn't get hit. Yeah, he's not like Scull was last night. Usyk's a pressure fighter and still doesn't get hit. That's what I like. Bivol doesn't really run away. He's a pressure fighter. We saw it against Beterbiev, boxing on the back foot mostly because they'll do it and not get hit. Anyway, I just think, Canelo won that fight, of course. I just think I came out of it going, do you know what? I think if Canelo fought how Scull fought, Canelo would have been given the win. And that's where you go, the corruption in boxing, that Canelo's going to be kind of untouchable virtually. The Crawford fight, even if it's close, Canelo give him the nod because it's Canelo. And then you've got back to my point, I don't think boxing's score system is good enough. Because if I can sit there and say that Canelo could have fought if the roles were reversed, Canelo was in the loser's position, he would have been a winner, well then it's not good enough. Because you can't sit there and say that Liverpool versus Spurs, right, when Liverpool won the title, if the roles were reversed and Liverpool conceded 5 and scored 1, Liverpool still would have won the game. Like, no, of course not. Of course not. But for some reason, I can say that Canelo, if he was in Scull's position, the losing fighter, and fought that fight, would have been the winner. That's not how sports should work. That's not how that shouldn't be a thing. And it is. And it was still a lackluster fight. Canelo is just not who he used to be. And that's okay. He's old and he's still a great fighter. I'm not trying to take anything away. And he deservedly won that fight. But again, it was a boring, lackluster fight where no one really did anything. And it was meant to be a huge weekend for boxing. I just sort of think that just wasn't good enough. I'm not blaming Canelo. Canelo was looking for it, but he wasn't able to unleash what he would have been able to unleash a few years ago. And it's a crying shame. And moving down from that, Bakoli Ajagba, again, like, how is that a draw? Look, it was slightly close, and it's part of me is like, it was close because I said Ajagba would win. I said I really rate Bakoli. I was one of the only people that said Bakoli would beat Anderson. Go back and watch it. I said Bakoli would beat Anderson. Anderson's just not ready. Bakoli's too in your face. I'm going to wallop you. But against a Ajagba, that won't work. You're going to stand square on against a really good boxer and a good mover. And that's what he did. And then what happened was Ajagba built up a lead and just kind of thought, I'm going to win now, so I'm going to let these rounds go. And he let Bakoli back into the fight. And for that reason, I'm not mad Ajagba didn't win necessarily, because actually it's Ajagba's fault. You knew you were in the fight and decided because of that you're going to step off the gas and cruise to victory and then let Bakoli back into the fight. Now, I still had Ajagba winning, and I think most people had Ajagba winning. And I'm biased. I said Ajagba would win. I said Ajagba would beat Bakoli. The underdog would win. But Bakoli came back into the fight, rightly so, right? Ajagba let it happen. And yeah, fair enough. But that's a crying shame that Ajagba, who should have had the win, didn't get it. I'm not going to call it a robbery or call it anything like this or some sort of, controversial, corrupt decision. But it's not right that the guy that won the fight didn't win the fight. And again, it comes back to this boxing scoring system. Look, I've just said, I like pressure fighters. I like the front foot, I'm going to apply pressure boxer. That's why I like watching Dubois. Yeah, that's why I like watching, that's why lots of people like watching the heavyweight division. When we come forward and hunt you down. I like watching Usyk, who can do that whilst being a slick boxer. I like Opetaya, who can do that whilst being a slick boxer. Bivol. I like the pressure fighters. That's what Bakoli was. And I still gave it to Ajagba. I still had Ajagba winning the fight. And he didn't get the result that he deserved. It's such a shame that on a bad night of boxing, because it has been a bad night of boxing, still we're talking about the scoring systems and the cards and the judges' cards and the results, because that wasn't a draw. And it's a shame, and it's been a bad weekend of boxing. It hasn't been, right? It hasn't been. But when you look at what it should have been and what it's been, you know what I mean? That's why you can't stack these cards of semi-finals and this and that, because 9 times out of 10, that's not what happens. You should have had people going in there, wanting to impress, on the Ring magazine, in front of all the eyes, knowing what's up next. You had Ajagba trying to cruise his way to a points decision and letting someone come back in and get a draw. You had Ryan Garcia just not going for it, knowing what's on the line. You had Devin Haley stepping back because he just not boxing, not fighting, just accepting a very lackluster, awful performance to get the win because he knows what's next. That's not good enough. That's why you don't stack these cards with boring fighters. That's why you don't stack these cards with semi-finals, because that simply is not good enough. And if you're a paying fan paying £25 for that, that's not good. It's not okay. It just isn't. It's just not good enough. It's a crying shame. People, your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. I had a Jagba winning. I said he'd win. Should have won. Canelo wasn't good enough. Well, sorry, Scull wasn't good enough. Canelo would have got the win regardless, but fair play to Canelo. What next? Crawford fight. I know your thoughts on all of that in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching, people. Make sure you leave a like, a comment, subscribe. You know how all this works, people. Peace.